Hello, FlossTube. My name is Leann, and I am leann.stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today is Sunday, April 10th, and this is my 29th FlossTube. It has been about 9 weeks since my last video. I don't know where the time has gone. It has just been insanely busy. It started out with, so my last video was, I think February 4th was the date. And then that last month leading up until Nashville market, I was basically working around the clock. I was model stitching, I was dyeing fabric, I was dyeing floss, I was putting kits together. It was just pure insanity. And then, you know, the weekend of March 4th, I can't even remember the dates. That was market, so I was gone that weekend. And then since I got home from market, I have just been working like crazy. It was an extremely wonderful weekend and an amazing experience. And I have just been working overtime trying to fill orders and dye fabric and just all of the things. And plus all of our regular work on top of that. So I finally got a chance to sit down and film. So here I am. I will talk a little bit more about market at the end of the video because I have some haul to show. So I guess let's get started. I have worked on a whole bunch of pieces here and there, not a ton of progress, but just a lot of pieces as my model stitching and sample knitting has allowed me. I've been designing lots of knitting pieces too. So I've just been, like I said, working like crazy. So I've just kind of been taking wherever I have kind of been going wherever my stitchy bug has taken me. I have not necessarily taken before photos. So if I can, I will show you a side-by-side from where the piece was where you saw it last. But I don't always know where the last time I showed it was. So I might not have one. I'm just going to do the best I can, because if I keep fretting about that, then I will never get this video filmed. So we're just going to get into it. So the first thing that I will note is that the piece you will not be seeing today is Marvel Heroes, because even though it's supposed to be my focus piece for this year and I'm supposed to be going for a Christmas finish, I have not worked on it. Not one stitch, not one single stitch since the last time you saw me 9 weeks ago. It has just been sitting right over there in the naughty corner because I just can't. So I don't know. Anyway, so let's see what I have worked on. The first one I'm going to show you is Consider the Lilies by Heartstring Samplery. And this, I kind of made an honorary focus piece this year because my goal is to finish about a page a month. I want to go, oh, I shouldn't have put that down there. I started up in this corner and I've been going page by page down here, and I want to go all the way across this way. And then I want to go back up and I want to see if I can make the border meet. And I'm just going to do it page by page though, as I go across. I'm not just going to do this. I don't know why. That's just what I decided to do. Anyway, so I worked quite a lot on this one. I think I finished one full page plus a little extra. So here's the whole piece right now. And then this is the part that I worked on right here. Let me do this. So I did this page right here with the Consider in it. I can't remember if I had finished that the last time I showed you, but I came down, I did the flowers and I did all of this. And these flowers right here, I am doing the DMC conversion, and I noticed I had stitched all these flowers. And I noticed that in the back of the book, the DMCs with this and another purple are switched. So I think I have it somewhere else in here. I don't know where, but I think I had the symbol was used one other time. So I frogged these and I used the correct purple. I don't think I'm going to go back and frog that other one. It just depends, because the image is mirrored from side to side. So if it bugs me, then I might, but who knows when I'm actually going to get to that and if I'm even going to remember. So yeah, I just love working on this. It's so much fun just to work one motif at a time, and I feel like it makes it much more doable and much less daunting than when I look at the fact that this is an entire yard of fabric. I can't even get it all in the frame of the camera, and that's how much I have done. So when I look at it as motif by motif instead of that, it is much less daunting. As I said before, I am doing the DMC conversion. I am using one fancy floss because there was no DMC conversion in the back of the book, and I just happened to have it, something that matched in the studio. So this color right here, I don't know if you can see that. It's supposed to be Weeks Dye Works Red Rocks, I believe, and I am using Forbidden Fiber Co. Brick. And then the fabric, I dyed up, and there is no equivalent color in the shop right now. I have figured out how to remake it because I made it for my good friend Zan over at Crazy Band Lady Stitches. It is called Meadow, and at some point I will get it in the shop when I have a second. But yeah, so that's that one. The next piece I have to show you is Temperature Butterflies by Stitchin' Mommy. And I am not caught up on this whatsoever. I basically didn't stitch on it the entire month of February, nor half of March. So I am trying to catch up. I have the butterfly outline finished through March and part of April, as you can see. And then I'm kind of just going through and doing one color at a time, one temperature range at a time, and just going through and doing all of it. So now that we are at April 10th, I obviously need to finish April's butterfly and do the same thing there. But because I've been model stitching, I normally try to stitch it on Tuesdays, and I just haven't been. So at some point I want to catch up and keep going. I just don't know when that will be. These are in no particular order, by the way. Literally, I have a folder of the front pages, like photocopies of the front pages of all of my whips. And I basically just went through there and pulled the pictures as I found them, as I knew I had worked on them. So there is no particular order. Halloween Fairy, or as I call her, Trick or Treat Fairy, because there is another Halloween Fairy by Nora Corbett or Mirabilia. I actually just worked on this one last week. I knew I wanted to work on something. I couldn't make up my mind. And so Sarah from Memphis, Sarah E, told me, work on your Trick or Treat Fairy, because we started this together on Halloween last year. And so she told me to, so I did. And here is where I am at. And I just love her. I worked on her for probably 3 or 4 days. And I finished her dress. I think I just had this part of the skirt to do. I think I had done like maybe this much. And so I finished her skirt. And then I came down here. I did her legs and her feet. I did these green vines. And I don't know if you can tell, but they're sparkly. That's all Krynic. And then I started on these pumpkins. And I really, really wanted to finish these pumpkins. But I had a deadline for a knitting design. So I had to stop working on it. And I knit for 2 or 3 nights instead. And then by the time I was done with that, I didn't want to work on her anymore. So I'm getting close though. I put her on this bigger frame because I'm hopeful that it's tall enough to where I can do all my beading, because I'm getting really close to that. I just have her face and her arms, and then it's just lots of swirls and lots of beading once the pumpkins are done. So I'm hoping I can get to that. This is on 32 count Belfast Opalescent, and the colorway is called Leaf Pile, Leafpile. It is in my shop. I have it on 1/8 yards and 1/4 yards, I think, right now. And I am working on getting bigger pieces of fabric, because that is one of my big takeaways from market. I've always dyed smaller pieces of fabric because that's what we use in a lot of our kits. And I have learned to also do bigger pieces of fabric. So I'm working on getting 1/2 yards and possibly full yards into the shop. We'll see. But yeah, so that's that one. I actually dyed Leaf Pile. I created that colorway specifically for this Trick or Treat Fairy, and I couldn't love it more. So yeah, there's that one. The next piece I have to show you is the year-long Sal means stitch along if you're new here, by Victoria Sampler. This was free in their Facebook group last year, and my original intention was to stitch it month by month this year, just, you know, January, February, March. And I am still on February because stuff and things. So here's where I'm at. I still have not fixed this top border from January. I'll get there eventually. Or maybe I'll just stitch March the same way. I don't really know. But so I've basically done almost all of the white for February, and I just have to go in, like, this is the boy and girl skating, and I have to go in and do all that. But yeah, I've even done the specialty stitches that are in white. And I am doing this on a 28 count piece of Dovetail by me. And I am, the thing with these Sals that Victoria Sampler does, and I think they have some regular patterns that are this way too, is they don't use any they don't call for any kinds of flosses. They chart it in, like, it's charted in color. And it's kind of just a recommendation. And so, like, this tree right here was charted in black and gray, and I made it green instead. But so what I'm doing is all of my leftover fancy floss that I have used in model stitches, or that I have gotten, like other brands of fancy floss that I have gotten in boxes or kits or whatever, I am using all those leftovers to stitch this. So, I don't know what all the colors are, honestly. I'm not keeping track of it as I go, but I'm just kind of having fun with it and using it as like an artistic expression, creativity exercise, whatever you want to call it, and using up leftovers at the same time. Another piece that I am doing that with, actually, and that was kind of happily coincidental words. Does that make sense? A happy coincidence. That's it. This is the Vintage Black Sampler by Black Forest Owl Forest Embroidery. Wow. And I am doing the same thing with this, and I am working on this piece with Sam from Sammy Liz, and we started it on January 1st. And instead of doing all black, we are doing leftover fancy flosses. So here's where I'm at. I haven't worked on this too much. My original goal was, you know, we started on January 1st. I wanted to finish it in December, and I still do. So my original goal was 2,000 stitches a month. I fell behind in February. I'm not too far behind because I stitched this house in January and it was way above that 2,000 stitches, but I am a little behind. I think I might be at 3,000 right now, and I should be at 8,000 by the end of this month. Wow, I'm more behind than I thought. Anyway, I just stitched the bottom half of this grandfather clock, and so I stitched the house blue after a house that I used to pass by in New Jersey. The first year that we lived there, the apartment that I lived in, I passed by this beautiful blue house every day on the way to work, and it had a turret, and it was just beautiful. So that's what I stitched this house after. And then I stitched this guy. He's Willy Wonka, and this is Mary Poppins. And then I'm stitching the grandfather clock after Big Ben, because I love London and it's one of my favorite places in the entire planet. And so there you go. And my husband and I, for one of our early anniversaries before we had kids, well, for our first anniversary, we lived in New Jersey, so it was easy to fly abroad. So we did like a 4-day weekend in London for our first anniversary. And then I think it was our 4th anniversary where we took like 10 days and we flew to London, and then we rented a car and we drove all around England. We got all the way up to like Hadrian's Wall. So we got all the way up almost to Scotland, but we did not go into Scotland. And then we drove across Hadrian's Wall and down through the Lake District and back down into like Birmingham, and we spent a couple days in that area. And then we went back to London and spent a couple days in London and flew home. And when we stayed in London, one of the times, I don't remember which trip it was. I don't remember which part of the trip it was. One of the times we went to London, we stayed right next to the Houses of Parliament, and it was really neat. So that's kind of the backstory of why I'm stitching that after Big Ben. But yeah, so that's that piece. And then the next one that I have to show you is Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow by Carriage House Samplings, and it's actually by Kathy Barrick, and it is just sold under the Carriage House Samplings name. And I am stitching this with Sam from Sammy Liz, Sarah from Memphis Sarah E, and Bobby from Pumpkin Creek Primitives. I got it right this time, Bobby. I can never say that word on the first, I can never say her name on the first try. I always stumble over my words. Anyway, so we do a monthly-ish Zoom call where we get together and we stitch on this, and we're supposed to stitch on it other times too, but a lot of times we only stitch on it there. But I made a lot of progress because I stitched on it for a few days after our call. And here's where I'm at. So this, in the past 9 weeks, because we've had 2 Zoom calls, I think, since I last showed this piece to you. I finished that block, which was a beast of a block because it is almost all full coverage. And there's a lot of French knots in there, a lot of French knots. So yeah, I finished that one, and then I got a really decent start on this one. I did not want to stop stitching that tree, and I made myself stop and work on something else. I don't remember what it is at the moment, but we are in the process of scheduling another Zoom call. But even just talking about it, like we've been talking about which weekend in April to do it, just talking about it makes me want to stitch on it. So I might stitch on this today. I might stitch on Consider the Lilies. I'm not really sure yet. The piece I have to show you is Quaker Pumpkins by Hello at Liz Matthews. And this was the very first conversion I ever did into my own floss. And I do have it for sale in my shop. It's called the Quaker Pumpkins Thread Pack. No, I actually have kits. If I have any of the patterns in stock, you will see a full kit with fabric, floss, and pattern. I am stitching it on spearmint. I think I've been saying it's a 32 count Belfast this whole time, but I think it might actually be an even weave. Now that I know a little bit more about these things, I think that's what it is. So here is where I'm at. I'm gonna do it like this because if I can find the before picture, it might behoove me to do top and bottom. But I know that this pumpkin is new. I think some of these stars are new. And I think some of this border is new. So I was on a kick where I really just wanted to finish some things. And so I worked on this for about a week. And I have one more pumpkin out here and some more of these little stars. And then obviously I have a lot more border. And then I have the entire All Hallows Eve to put across the bottom. I was waiting because I wanted to do it all at once. I didn't want to do it page by page. If you have seen Georgia Stitching Girl, I think is her name, she did this pattern, except at the bottom she put Harvest Blessing, I think, or something to that effect. Instead of All Hallows Eve, she did Harvest, and she changed the blacks to browns. And I've obviously already started stitching on the blacks, but my black is actually closer to a purple. And so I'm considering putting Harvest Blessing on the bottom of this, of asking her for her chart that she did of that. I'm not sure. I'm waiting until I get there to decide for sure, but it's a strong possibility. The next piece I have to show you is the only full coverage piece I have worked on in a long time. And this is Wizard of Oz by Scott Gustafson, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And I worked on this last night because I knew I wanted to stitch on something. I knew I really wanted to work on full coverage because I feel like I have been neglecting my full coverage really badly this year. And not for any reason other than I've just found so many other charts that I want to work on. And like I said, I've been doing lots of model stitching and I've been working really hard. So I haven't wanted to sit and work on Pattern Keeper. I've wanted to work off of a paper chart, which doesn't really necessarily make sense to me because Pattern Keeper is really easy and paper charts is a lot more counting, but that's the way it's been. So that's kind of how I've been going. Anyway, I told in my Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow chat group that we have on Instagram, I mentioned it last night. I said, I really want to work on full coverage. I just can't make a decision. And even my 5-year-old Genevieve, she told me that I should work on Miss Christmas Eve. And I had just finished working on Trick or Treat Fairy. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. I really want to work on full coverage, but I don't know what I want. So Sam from Sammy Liz told me to work on my second oldest full coverage whip. And that's what this is. So here it is, and I just kind of stitched all over. I was picking a symbol up here in this area so that I could, you know, work top down. And then I was just carrying the thread and finishing the thread throughout the piece. So I worked a little out here. I filled in here a little bit. I think I filled in here a little bit. Excuse me. So I just really went wherever it took me. I did about 400 stitches. I think the last time I showed this was on my whip parade on January 1st. So I'm going to go back and find a picture just to see if I can tell, just to see if you can tell where I put those 400 stitches in. But, you know, I always dread taking this piece out because it's on a 22 count Hardinger, and it's 2/1. And so it's really thick. And it was my first experience with an even weave type fabric. And I don't think it actually is even weave, but it was the first time I had ever stitched on something where the stitches slipped underneath, and I really had a hard time with it. And now that I have a little more experience under my belt, because I started this almost exactly 2 years ago in May of 2020, now that I have a little more stitching under my belt, I kind of understand how to work with the fabric a little bit better. So, but I haven't gotten over that hesitation of, oh, I really hate working on that fabric. And so working on it yesterday kind of made me realize that I enjoy it again. So I'm hoping I might pull this out a little bit more. Genevieve has laid claim to it, and I told her that I had originally wanted to put it in her bathroom because I have an artwork piece in there that is the lyrics to Over the Rainbow. And so I thought it went, but she has laid claim to it and decided that she is taking it out of the house when she leaves when she's a teenager, because everything now that she's 5.5 is, when I'm a teenager, can I do this? When I'm a teenager, can I do that? So when she is a teenager and leaves the house, she has declared that she is taking that with her. I told her we'll have to even see if I've finished it by then. Anyway, so that is that one. That is all of my whips. I have a finish, and then I have some new starts. So let's go with the finish. This is, well, the fox you've already seen finished, but I finished the swans by Cottage Garden Samplings. This is her Year in the Woods series. And I just love them. And there are so many design element changes that I did. I can never stitch these trees right. I don't know what my problem is, but I'm totally in love with these pine cones right there. And I'm basically just in love with all of it. I'm stitching this on a 32 count Belfast dyed by me. It's our Morning Mist colorway. And in the swans, I used a called for DMC, and then this golden color was supposed to be Gentle Arts Grecian Gold, and I dyed a new floss color for it called Medallion, and I believe that's in the shop. And then the white was Gentle Arts Chalk, and I used Vanilla Blossom, and that's in the shop. That's been in the shop forever. So there's that, and I just love it. I'm so excited over it. And the only thing I'm bummed about is that technically I should have started the fox in the middle, and the swan would have gone over here, and then where the fox is should be empty. So I'm really hoping that when the 12th pattern comes out later this year, that it's going to look okay next to the swans instead of next to the fox. I'm worried about those pine cones, but it is what it is. I'm not going to spend too much time stressing over it because I'm sure it'll look fine no matter what. So with that finish, I started the jackrabbit. Ooh, that's really glary. Which is the third one in the series, and it's the first one in the spring series. And again, I had wanted to stitch these along as they got released, but there's a deceptive amount of stitches in these. They are big. I have some floss on here. Ooh, come here. So here is my jackrabbit. And I think this is 3 or 4 days worth of stitching probably. And it's a lot of fun. So maybe I'll stitch on this today. I don't really know. Maybe I'll stitch on all 3. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And the way I'm kind of approaching these is basically I did a middle start and then I did an entire 6 strand length. I think my floss is in 1 yard lengths. So I did an entire 6 strand 1 yard piece. And I do all those stitches and then I just pick whatever is next. So like I think I started with these diamonds, and then so the next thing I did is I went and filled in the diamonds. And then after that I probably went and did some of this chalk. And then I think when I came up here to do this chalk, then I came up here and I decided to go, I was gonna go all the way to the top. So I did some of this gray and then I did this gray and all the way up, and then I started on the gold. And just every time I just do an entire 1 yard length unless I'm out of stitches or I have to count too much to get to the next place where it goes. And then if that happens, I will go choose the next color. So it's kind of a relaxing way to stitch because I'm not having to pull off and put back on tons of floss. I don't use bobbins, I use thread drops. And so I don't have to keep putting back on and pulling off floss if I do the entire 6 strands. And like I said, these have a deceptive amount of stitches in them, and I go through a 6 strand piece very quickly. So yeah, there he is. I am using, once again, the called for DMC for the most part. Instead of 3865, I am still using Vanilla Blossom, which is right there. It has a little bit of creamy yellow and a little bit of the palest silver gray in it. And I just really like it. It just is a slight more dimension than a plain white. So, and I used it in the fox and the swans. So I figure I'll just keep using it for the jackrabbit and whatever else in the series calls for 3865 or white or chalk or anything along that. I'm probably going to stick to the Vanilla Blossom. And then it calls for Gentle Arts Aged Pewter, and I am using Smoke Screen, and that is these lighter gray parts of the rabbit. That's where that is. And then instead of Weeks Dye Works Lilac, I am using Foxglove, and I dyed this color. I can't remember if I dyed it specifically for this or if I dyed it for Floss Club and it just happened to fit. I think it was the latter. I think it just happened to be the perfect purple. So yeah, that is the jackrabbit. Let me get all my bits and pieces. Put that down here. Oops. And then the last new start I have is I am doing the Stever Montage Sal along with Stitchin' Mommy and a couple of other people. And so on March 18th, I started the spring montage because that weekend was the first weekend of spring. And I thought I would get a lot more done, but life got in the way. And so I've got 700 or 800 stitches in, and they're teeny tiny. This is 28 count easy grid Lugana, and I am doing 2 over 1/2 stitches. And most of the stitching is so pale that you can barely see it. Like there's a bunch of really pale pink in there. But yeah, I'm really enjoying doing the half stitch. Avoided is the wrong word, but I wrote it off for a very long time thinking that I just wouldn't enjoy it, that cross stitching is a full cross and I just will not like the product if I do it any other way. But I loved those designs so much and I knew I wanted to do it, and I had a yard of 28 count that I had actually bought to start another full coverage piece for my husband when I finished this one, the one that's in timeout over there. And I know that I'm not going to get to that anytime soon, so I went ahead and cut that fabric up because all 4 of the seasonal montages will fit on one full yard, you know, a quarter yard each on a 28 count. And then I thought, well, I'm already doing the vintage black sampler 1/1 on 28 count. And I'm doing the temperature butterflies 1/1 on 32 count. I thought it was 28 count, but it's actually 32 count. And that's a lot of teeny tiny stitches. And I wear glasses for far away, which is a long story, but my up close eyesight is, knock on wood, still really good. My eye doctor is actually astounded that at age 41, I still have perfect focus. I don't expect that to last forever. I have had LASIK surgery, and that is something that they tell you when you have LASIK, is that as you get older, you can't expect to wear reading glasses. And so I'm trying not to press my luck. So I figure that's enough teeny tiny stitches. Anyway, so I forgot where I was going with that. 2/1, half stitches, 28 count, blah, blah, blah. Wow, I lost focus there. Anyway, that's that. So haul, let's start with Nashville. I'm gonna reach around the camera for a second. I am not going to attempt to go backwards in time a month and a half and tell you all about Nashville weekend. There are tons of different YouTube videos out there. My friend Sarah, who was with me, helping me in my booth, Sarah from Memphis RE and Zan from Crazy Band Lady Stitches, they are both local to me here in Memphis. They drove the 3 hours with me to Nashville and stayed with me over the weekend and helped set up the booth, helped man the booth, helped sell, helped tear down, helped me meet designers and other dyers, and it was just an amazing weekend. Sarah has the perfect detailed analysis of what happened that weekend. So go watch her video, and you can find out everything that happened. It was truly an amazing weekend, and I am even more excited to be a part of this cross stitch community. And I feel so blessed that I even get to make it a part of my business and my work. And you know, when I complain about working too much, I mean, let's be honest, it's a dream. You know, I come from a corporate America background. I am a CPA by trade. I have an accounting degree. I worked in corporate audit. I worked in financial audit. I did a lot in corporate America, some really amazing, some really, really terrible. And the fact that I get to do this being dye yarn and dye cross stitch and design and all of that, the fact that I get to do this is a dream. After attending market and meeting so many amazing people, it is even more of a dream. So with that said, I'll go through what I picked up. I talked to a lot of designers because, you know, over the last 2 years, I have come to love many designers' design styles. And so I talked to them and introduced myself and said, hey, I would love to collaborate with you sometime. And everybody was amazing. So hopefully you'll be seeing some Forbidden Fiber Co. collaborations with designers coming out whenever. I don't know. Everybody's so busy and everybody plans so far in advance. So I don't know. I just would love to see it happen. So we'll see. But that said, let me go through what I picked up and who I talked to. The first one I have is by Heartstring Samplery, Beth Twist, and I don't know if you can see it, but this is called Really Friends, and she designed this for a Black Needle Society box, a Jane Austen box, that I also contributed to. I contributed 6 floss colors, and she used 3 of my floss colors in this design. And so she released it at market and I didn't know it, so I wasn't able to bring the flosses with me. I found out about it like about a week beforehand because a shop emailed me and said, hey, Beth Twist is releasing this. Do you have the flosses? And I just didn't have time at that point to dye them up. And I also needed to get Black Needle Society's permission because it was my understanding that everything I did for that box was exclusive. So I had to chat with them before I could say, yes, I will be releasing them. Anyway, she left because I wasn't able to bring the flosses. She left this in my booth, and I did not get a chance to go up and see her and ask her if I could keep it. So I have it. I'm not going to do anything with it until I actually talk to her. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I would love to stitch this. I mean, it's beautiful, but just because it uses my floss, and it's so cool. It's like the first, well, Michelle Bendy has stitched with my floss because she designed my advent calendars for the last 2 years, but it's the first widely published pattern that uses my floss. And so it's very exciting. Excuse me while I adjust. Ink circles. I did not get to talk to ink circles to Tracy when I went into her booth on Sunday. Her mom, basically Sunday is the day where everybody who has a booth is out chatting with everybody else who has a booth. So, you know, as you're going around, it's hit or miss whether the person you want to talk to is actually there. So I got to chat with Tracy's mom instead, and I picked up this new doors because I love old keys. I think they're beautiful. And yeah, here's that one. And then hot cocoa, cocoa time, because this is just adorable. And I probably will not stitch it on pink because I am not a big pink fan, but I love this pattern. And then my booth was right down the hall from Janine McGowan from the Blue Flower and Michelle Bendy. They share a booth. And as I said, Michelle and I have known each other for a couple of years. She's designed my advent calendar for the last 2 years. And so I spent a little bit of time with them. You know, it's easy to wander down the hall when you're close to someone, because you can always run back to your booth. So I spent quite a lot of time in their booth. They spent a little bit of time in my booth, but mostly we hung out in the hall. And then, you know, when you see a store pop into your room, then you run away and you go attend to your customers. But I had not met Janine before, and she is just fabulous. And I didn't get into their room to shop or, you know, whatever until the very end. I think Market had actually closed and they were starting to clean up. Michelle was off talking to someone else, and Diana from It Is Kismet Stitches, who is also fabulous, she had already left, so I didn't even get to say goodbye to her. Anyway, so Janine was in there and she had started to clean up, and she was amazing. She's like, well, it was your first Market, so just take whatever you want, which just, I mean, astounded me. She was so sweet. And so I grabbed a few. I told her I was not going to take everything, and she said, take everything. And I said, no, I can't do that. So, but I did take a few. And this is Wildflowers. The glare on that is awful. But it says, buttercups have honeyed hearts, bees, they love the clover, but I love the daisies dance all the meadow over. And it's just beautiful. And it's 177 wide by 160 high. So it's not a small chart, but it looks like it would be so much fun to stitch, and like it wouldn't take forever. So there's that. And then I got the Spring Forest Scrapbook Part 2. And I actually have, this was a collaboration between Janine and Steph from leann.stitches, and I carry leann.stitches patterns in my shop, and Steph lets me convert her patterns from whatever floss was called for into my floss. And I just like to get permission for it because, you know, designers, when they design things, they have a vision, and there's a difference between taking their pattern and converting it for your personal use and taking their pattern, converting it, and putting it up for sale. And so I like to get permission to do so. And she's always been really great about it. So I already converted her pattern into my floss, and it is up for sale. Like I have a thread pack up for sale and all of that. And I think these ones use a lot of the same colors. It looks like there's 2 other Weeks Dye Works flosses in here that I haven't converted yet, but I'm not 100% sure. It might just be 1. I don't know, I'd have to look. Anyway, so I have that one, and now I can stitch the whole thing. And it's been so long since Market, It's been like 5 or 6 weeks that I've been so busy. I don't even remember what I have in this stack. So a lot of these I'm seeing for the first time again, which is kind of fun. So this one is called Language of Flowers Spring, and it says, the sun shines when I'm with you. And that is just so much fun. Wow, the glare is terrible. I'm sorry. I hope you can see that. And this uses some NPI and some Bella Soie and some Dinky Dyes. It uses a lot of silk. And I've never really stitched with silk, so that would be fun to do. This one is Language of Flowers Dream. And I just love those blues and purples. And then this one is Moonlight Sampler, which is just, if you saw the model for this in person, like this isn't a pattern I would pick out just by seeing the pattern, but the model is gorgeous. And I think that was the big thing for the weekend, that seeing the models and seeing the original models is just, it's there, you can't compare it to anything else. It's just beautiful. And this fabric is not something I would pick out normally, but I don't know if I could do it on anything else now that I've seen it. And the last one I got from her was From Nature to My Needle, and it says, I count not my day complete till needle, thread, and fabric meet. And it's another one that's just gorgeous. And these aren't small. This is 235 by 235, and we all know I need another back, like big project. Fill in the blank. I need another back, like I need a hole in the head, but I can't help myself. Sarah and I were talking about that from Memphis area. I've said her name a million times by now, so you should know who she is. But she and I were talking about that. I think because we were talking about RETM and how big their stuff is, because they're Around the World in 80 Days pattern that they introduced at market. I feel like it was as tall as me, and I'm not short. But the big projects just hold my interest better. And she said the same thing. It's just more interesting. And I like a small project I have discovered, so that I can feel like I'm actually finishing things instead of just making teeny tiny bits of project. I like to sprinkle progress. I like to sprinkle them throughout, but the big projects are just really where my heart lies. And I think I just need to get over the fact that I'm just never going to finish anything. Okay. So Liz Matthews and Kathy Barrick, because Kathy Barrick is Liz Matthews' mom, they shared a booth, and I got to go up there on Sunday finally, and they were fabulous, so sweet and so nice. And I finally got to tell Liz Matthews that I was stitching Quaker pumpkins using my conversion, and talk to them about, you know, my floss and my fabric and stuff. And they are collaborating, or both doing, a series called The Collective Nouns. And I just found out that Janine McGowan is going to do one too. And I'm toast. I'm going to be stitching animals forever between Cottage Garden samplings and all the Collective Nouns. I'm going to be stitching it forever. So anyway, Liz Matthews has this parade of elephants, which is just so cute. And I think this would be such a fun birth sampler, but I'm not planning to have any more babies. So I'm just going to stitch it as is. And I might, it's charted in DMC, but I might do some converting. I don't know. We'll see. So there's that one. And then let me hop over to the one I got from Kathy Barrick, because it's a Parliament of Owls, and it has Big Ben and the Parliament houses. And I already told that story, so I won't tell it again, but I couldn't not get this because Big Ben. And I kind of want to start stitching on it like right now, because I think it would look amazing on my granite fabric. And I kind of have some in the cupboard over there behind the camera that I'm saving for a Christmas in July start. But yeah. Anyway, so those are those two that I picked up. And then back to Liz Matthews. I got this After the Rain because rainbows. I love rainbows. And I think this would be fun in one of my girls' rooms, or maybe even, you know, because there's so much room in my girls' bathroom for all of these massive cross-stitch projects. But it would be fun in there too, with that Over the Rainbow and then the Wizard of Oz thing that I'm going to finish by the time Genevieve's a teenager, so she can take it with her. Aloft, this one is just amazing, and it's very full coverage. No, it's not. I think it's stitched on two different fabrics, because the middle is stitched on blue but then the rest of it is stitched on white. So I think you stitch the circle and then attach it to a white piece of fabric. It's just, it's so creative and so beautiful. And then this one, I don't remember when she released this one, but I loved it the first time I saw it. And so I had to pick it up. This is Butterfly Cloche. It's just, she's so talented, y'all. So that's all the Liz Matthew I got. And then I did get one other Kathy Barrick, which is the Moons of 2022. And I don't have time to stitch this in 2022. And it's not really going to be relevant in 2023. But I just loved it. It's just so fun. So much fun. And it's all charted in NPI silk, which again, I've never really stitched with silk, so I think that would be fun to do. Another neighbor we had was Sweet Wing Studio. And I talked with her for a while, and she was right down the hall from us. And every time I looked in her window, I just started singing, because a lot of her designs are, at least the ones she had in her window, were songs like this one. And I am not going to sing it for you. If this doesn't pop this song up into your head, you need to find it and listen to it. That you don't want me to sing it, because it wouldn't sound anything like it's supposed to. But anyway, I had a talk with her, and she's going to design something out of my floss as soon as I can get it to her, which I just talked to her earlier in the week and promised her I'd send it to her by next Friday. So I got to get on that. But she is just so sweet, and I enjoyed talking with her, and I'm really looking forward to collaborating with her. Plum Street Sampler. I only chatted with her very, very briefly. But it's funny, like I said, I put these away when I got home and just went straight to work. And I've been watching everybody start this on Instagram for the last 4 or 5 weeks since market. And I'm like, oh man, I really should have picked that up when I went to market. And I did. And I think she might have given this to me as like a welcome to market kind of thing, but I don't remember. But she was so very sweet that I think she did. But I just really love this, and I really want to stitch it. Again, it's 202 by 170, and that house is no joke, but I really want to work on it. Okay, Heart in Hand. I had a lot of fun chatting with them. They were hilarious. And I just got some of their doodles patterns. And now, you know, there has been some criticism about market and the fact that people like me who do not, I mean, technically, I guess I own a shop because I have an online shop that I sell other designs in, but I always asked every time I went into a room, are you selling to exhibitors? And most people said yes. I know there were a few people who were not, and honestly, I couldn't get into their rooms anyway because they were so busy, and I didn't want to take a time away from their, you know, LNS customers that they really needed to be chatting with. So I just never even made it into their rooms. But I did ask before I talked to anybody, before I even started talking to anybody, I said, are you selling to exhibitors? And most people were, and I did too, just because it's a collaborative thing, where you build relationships and you talk to people, and it's your community. And so I appreciated that people sold to me, knowing that I wasn't necessarily going to be selling it in my shop. Not that I am against that or that I won't. It's just that wasn't the purpose of my buying at Nashville. So anyway, I have seen some criticism for that, but these, I did ask permission, and I said, hey, I'm an exhibitor. Are you selling to exhibitors? And, you know, everything I bought here was bought with the knowledge that I would not be buying it for reselling purposes. Anyway, I bought some doodles. This was the spring doodles, and then the summer doodles, because you know how I am about my seasons. And the autumn doodles and the winter doodles. And these are just sweet little smalls that I bet I could finish in a weekend or so. But yeah, they're fun. And like I said, I had a blast in their booth chatting with them. It was hilarious. Little Stitch Girl, which I had not actually heard of before market, even though like I found her on Instagram and she's got a huge following. I love her Christmas designs. She had all of these Christmas ornaments up, and she had the whole series up, but they're not all for sale yet. They're going to be released throughout the year. So I got those, And then this Snow Tricks is just so cute. And then this one is beautiful. The Gift of Giving. I'm reading it backwards in the camera. I just love her little people. They're so cute. Puntini. Am I saying that right? Probably not. Her stuff. I've been following her on Instagram for a while. I got this little gardening one, and then these pins, and she wasn't in the booth when I went in there. I think it was her husband or significant other. She makes these out of polymer clay, and they're just amazing. And then the stitching one, and she was out of the little pins by the time I got there. But I just love that. Those little bundles of floss are just too cute. So that's everything that I got at market. I talked to a lot more people while I was there than I did purchasing, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't purchase in every booth. If there were people in the booth, I did not go in and interrupt because they're there to do business first and foremost. So yeah, that is all the market stuff. I do have a little bit more haul because I'm crazy and I don't normally show haul. Normally I can't stand looking at it and I put it away before I get a chance to film it. But last month was the first month I was actually able to attend the local stitching group at our LNS Stitchers Inc. down in Memphis, and I did a little bit of shopping while I was there. And I have been eyeing buttons and beads kits for a long time. I think it would be fun to have framed up and to change out seasonally or monthly. And I love bumble. I am scared to death of bees, but I love them in artwork. So I got this one. I don't know when I'll start it, but at some point. And then I have been eyeing Cinnamon Stars forever, and Zan from Crazy Band Lady Stitches just started it or was working on it for Whipco or something, and I saw it at the LNS and I had to get it. And I don't know when I'll start it, but maybe in the fall because it's very autumny. And then at market, Sarah went on and on about Tom the Turkey. Sir Thomas is his name. And she went into Glendon Place's booth and chatted with her forever and bought everything there. She bought the pattern and the embellishment pack and all of the floss and everything. And I went in there and I saw the model and it was gorgeous, but it was huge. And I was like, I just don't really need to stitch that. But I gave in because they started a SAL, and I'm a sucker for a SAL, which, you know, stands for stitch along, but really is a start along when it all comes down to it. And so I bought it online, and there he is. And there's so many different, it's not Krynick, it's Rainbow Gallery. It's charted in Sullivan's, or it's converted into Sullivan's to help keep the cost down because there's so many colors. And then there are 7 colors of beads and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 different sparkly colors. Like this corn in the corners, that yellow and white is all sparkly. So I just got the whole kit for that. I got the fabric, the called for fabric. I got the embellishment pack. I got the thread pack. I got all of that. I don't know when I'm going to start it. Sarah has already started it. I had planned to start it last week, but again, the sample knitting took over. The deadlines took over. So I don't know. I don't know when I'll start it. And then I have one last piece of haul, and it is I saved the best for last. So I showed you Trick or Treat Fairy earlier. And when Sarah and I kitted it up, neither of us could find Blue Ice Krynick. We couldn't find it anywhere. The LNS didn't have it. I couldn't find it on any online LNS. Nowhere. And so when we went to market, the first place I went on Saturday morning, before we really had any customers, because, you know, at market, most of the LNSs line up at the fabric dyers because there's only so much fabric everyone brings. And now I'm a fabric dyer, but nobody really knew about me. So, and my fabric isn't necessarily called for in anybody's designs yet. So, you know, they needed to go where they knew they needed to get their fabric, and people trickled in throughout the weekend as they found out about me. But, so we didn't really have any customers first thing on Saturday morning. And so I snuck across the atrium. Krynick was on our floor. We could see them from our door. I snuck across the atrium and I told them you know, my friend Sarah and I started this Mirabilia pattern, and we need blue ice number 4. And they didn't have any, you know, supply chain issues, et cetera, et cetera. And I was bummed, but I said, that's okay. We'll substitute it with something else. Sarah had already bought a different size braid that would work in the same color, blue ice, that would work. It was just thinner, I think, or thicker or something. But a few hours later, I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she shows up and she's like, I found a cone. It was the funniest thing. And so Sarah and I now share custody of this cone of blue ice Kreinik. Look at how much is on that cone. Even sharing it, I don't think that Sarah and I will ever make it through this cone of blue ice Kreinik. But she was so excited that she'd found it, and we wanted it so badly. And now Sarah has a couple of other Mirabilias. She's been on the hunt for some out-of-print Mirabilias, and she's got a couple of other Mirabilias that call for it. So I currently have possession of the cone, and I'm going to wind her off a bunch and take it to our next Stitchers Inc., our next stitching day at Stitchers Inc. But yeah, we are very excited to have this cone, and we just decided that everything that is going to get blue ice, I think this is like $7.75, I think is the closest DMC. And so anything that calls for $7.75, I might even put some Kreinik in my Marvel piece and make it a little bit sparkly. I don't know. We're just having fun with it. Anyway, that is it. I am almost at an hour, which is insane. And half of that is haul. So if you made it this far, thank you. Thanks for sticking with me as I get my wheels back under me after 9 weeks of not filming. And yeah, I hope that you have a good week. It is Sunday. It is 4:15. So by the time I get this uploaded and edited and uploaded, it's probably going to be Sunday night. So I hope you have a good week. I hope that everything's going well. And whatever you do, I hope you lead with love. Bye.